You have reached Wrestling's Authority Review. I'm your man, Steele, and today I have a very special review because I looked all over the place for this one, and I finally got my hands on him. And that's from Transformers Retro Seaspray. Transformers Retro Seaspray. But before I get into the actual review, I just want to go over some of the old school details on this packaging. Up front here, you have typically showing you with the figure, now with accessories inside. In the top corner here, you have an 8+, which is an age requirement for this figure. Then across the top here, it says the Transformers, more than meets the eye. Next day you have heroic Autobots, and below that you have this very cool vintage illustration of Seaspray. And over here you have Autobot Seaspray. In the corner here you have the old school Hasbro emblem. Then on the back of the packaging here, on the very top you have the Transformers, more than meets the eye. Then over here it says, it is a world of constant change, where things are not what they seem. It is a world of the Transformers, a world of heroic Autobots and evil Decepticons. In the middle here is a beautiful montage of the Autobots battling the Decepticons. Down here you have text spec that reads, Autobot Seaspray. Over here a profile shot of Seaspray. Then over here it says, function, naval battle. Quote, be unyielding as the ocean waves, and your enemies shall fall. And below that it says, displays a zest for his job unmatched by fellow Autobots. Loves the ocean and its creatures. Loves the thrill of naval battle. Next to that you have his coded specs. Over here you have the more than meets the eye authentic logo. And next to that you have the old school Hasbro emblem. Transformers Retro Generation 1 Autobot Seaspray. Seaspray was released on October 1st, 2025 with the suggested retail price of $24.97. It is available exclusively at Walmart. Seaspray was released along with the other Transformers Retro Generation 1 figure, Brawn. Seaspray is a Generation 1 inspired figure that converts into his boat mode in 22 steps. His accessories include his blaster and instructions. Seaspray stands 5 inches tall and he is meant for fans ages 8 and up. Now I'm going to go ahead and convert Seaspray from his robot mode all the way to his boat mode. But the first thing you always want to do before you transform any of your Transformers, you want to remove all their weapons and accessories. So I'm going to take this blaster here, and I'm going to put this off to the side. So the first step of the transformation, you want to take Seaspray's head right here, you want to rotate it all the way around, just like that. So step number 2, you have Seaspray's forearms right there and right there. On his elbow joint, you have a swivel joint right there and right there. You want to take that forearm piece, you want to rotate it all the way around, just like that. Go and do it to that forearm piece, and rotate it all the way around, just like that. So step number 3, you have these 2 white panels right there and right there. And this double jointed hinge joint right there and right there. So what they want you to do is take these white panels now, bring them out and back just like that. Do that to the other side, that white panel, bring it out and back just like that. So step number 4, you want to turn Seaspray all the way around. You have this white panel on his back, you have a hinge joint right there. You want to that white panel, you want to flip it up just like that. Step number 5. You have Seaspray's shoulder pylons right there and right there. You got a hinge joint right back here. You want to take this pylon, you want to pull it all the way up, just like that. This is step number 6. At the front of the pylons, you have a tab right there and right there. On this chest, you have a porthole right there and right there. You want to bring these pylons down. You want to tab them right into the chest, just like that. So step number 7, you have this double jointed hinge joint right there and right there. You want to take the arm pieces now, and you want to bring them all the way down, just like that. You want to do that to the other side, take that arm piece now, and rotate it all the way around, just like that. So step number 8, you get that white panel right here, and you have the hinge joint right there. You want to bring this white panel, you got a porthole right there and right there, and you have the tab right there and right there. You want to tab that panel right into place, just like that. Step number 9, on bottom of Seaspray's feet, you got a blue panel right there and right there. There's a hinge joint right there and right there. You want to take these blue panels now, You want to flip them out just like that. Do that to your side of that blue panel and flip it out just like that. So step number 10, inside that panel, you have another part right there and right there. You have a hinge joint right there and right there. You want to do these blue pieces and flip them out just like that. Do that to your side of the other piece and flip it out just like that. So step number 11, the other piece right there and right there. You have a hinge joint right there and right there. You want to do this piece and you also want to flip it down just like that. Do that to your side of that other piece and flip it down just like that. The step number 12, you have a bunch of panels right there, right there, and right there. You have a hinge joint right there, right there, and right there. You want to do these panels, you want to flip them out just like that, and just like that. Step number 13, you want to take Seaspray. He has feet right there and right there. I think his foot, you want to separate from the leg and bring his foot forward just like that. Do that to your side, take his foot, separate from the leg and bring it forward just like that. So step number 14, you want to take the foot now and you want to bring it down just like that. You want to take that foot and bring it down just like that. So step number 15, you want to take that leg, you want to collapse it all the way into the foot just like that. You want to take that foot and collapse it all the way into the leg just like that. So step number 16, in between the feet here, you have a couple tabs, some portholes. We're going to take these feet now and bring them together and tab them into place just like that. So step number 17, we'll turn Seaspray all the way around. You have this orange piece right here. Top of that orange piece, you have a tab. Behind it, you have a hinge joint. In the center of the back here, you have a porthole. We're going to go ahead and bend this piece so the hinge joint brings that tab right into that porthole just like that. So step number 18, you want to bring this whole front piece, you want to bring it forward just like that. So step number 19, at the front of the thigh piece here, you have a little tab, and you got a porthole at the top of the white piece right here. You want to bring everything together just like that. And again, you want to make sure everything still remains tabbed together. Like the 2 feet here came separated, so I'm going to go ahead and tab those right into place just like that. So step number 20, you have Seaspray's arms right there and right there. You have his fists right there and right there. You want to take the arms, bring them back, and you want to make sure this tab right here goes into the wrist just like that. Do that to your side, to that fist, bring it into the boat, and tab that tab right into the wrist just like that. This is step number 21. You have this white piece right here. It's on a swivel joint. All you have to do is rotate that all the way around just like that. So in the 22nd and final step, you have these 2 blue panels right there and right there. And on the side of these blue panels, you have a tab right there and right there. You want to push those panels in just like that. And now you have Seaspray in his full boat mode. Now there's Seaspray in his boat mode. And on my display table, so we'll go over some of his play features and accessories. First, I talk about his blaster. And according to the instructions, we're going to arm Seaspray with this blaster while he's in his vehicle mode. You do that because on the side of the blaster here, you have a little porthole. On the side of the boat right here, you have a peg. You want to take that blaster and plug it right onto that peg, just like that. And now you have Seaspray armed while he's in his boat mode. Pretty cool play feature, but personally I'm not a big fan of arming my Transformers while they're in their alt mode, unless it plays a part of the transformation, which it does not in this case. And if you're wondering where alt mode is, alt mode is anything that's not the robot mode. So this is vehicle mode, animal mode, in this case a boat mode. So I'm going to go to this blaster, I'm going to put it off to the side. I'm going to go and talk about Seaspray. But this version of Seaspray is very special because he was released as an exclusive figure, and he's very, very sought after right now because he's one of the few remaining Minibot figures that did not get the Generations toy treatment yet. And if you're wondering what the Generation toy line incorporates, it incorporates a lot of toy lines. And what they did was Hasbro and Takara went ahead and took all the Transformers and pretty much redesigned all of them so the scaling is more consistent, and where their tooling for the weaponry also is very consistent, where all the weapons are 5mm pegs, so you can arm your Transformers with any weapon whatsoever, unlike the original Generation 1 toy line where a lot of times the weapons that those figures came with were only exclusive to those figures, where that figure could only arm that weapon. Well, now they made it more consistent where you can arm, and even the scaling, it's more consistent because a lot of people had issues with the Generation 1 toy line where the scaling was way off, and now Hasbro and Takara corrected that. They did that with the Generations toy line, which incorporates War for Cybertron starting with Siege, Earthrise, and Kingdom, which carried over to Legacy, where you got Legacy, Legacy Evolution, Legacy United. You even have Studio Series figures. You have some of the Hasbro Pulse exclusive figures. and a lot of the HasLab figures now are very consistent with the scaling for this toy line, which is very, very nicely done. And this figure right here, it was released, like I said, exclusively for Walmart, but the color scheme more matches the Generation 1 toy, but a lot of the design elements are based on the Generation 1 toy line, where you do have a lot of inspiration from the animated model from Generation 1 cartoon series, which is very nice. So I am guessing that they will release this figure in more of a color scheme that matches more the animated model from the Generation 1 cartoon series, and there's some differences in the head sculpt too, which I'll get into later on. But it's very, very nicely done nonetheless, and I do have a Generation 1 version of Seaspray to do a side-by-side comparison. And this Seaspray is very old. I mean, he is almost 40 years old. So a lot of the blue here is kind of yellowed a little bit. So you got that reddish, that bluish green tinge to the blue plastic right here. And I haven't soaked in a peroxide yet, and as you can see, I still have that rub sign. And I don't know if they reissued this in the reissue, that multi-pack for the mini-bots that Takara released in that bookcase series. So I might have a fresher version of Seaspray, but this is the authentic Generation 1 that came out in the mid-80s, I think 1985, to name a specific date. But very nice done. You can see a lot of design elements did carry on from the Generation 1 toy to the retro version of Seaspray. I mean, you got the cockpit here, we got the dual windows up here, very nicely done. Unfortunately, the Generation 1 toy is not as detailed as the retro. Now, one thing I noticed that was a big difference, and I maybe my memory didn't serve me correctly, but I thought there was windshields in Seaspray, but there aren't. So you can see some of this robot toy elements through the windshield here, which I'm very surprised. And I do have to give the retro the vehicle mode, because the vehicle mode is so well done with the retro version of Seaspray. And the one thing that I will give a notch against this version of Seaspray is the original Generation 1 had wheels on the bottom, so you could roll on any surfaces. Well, unfortunately, with retro version of Seaspray, there are no wheels. So you want to avoid rolling him across any abrasive surfaces, because you will cause some damage to the bottom of the figure right here. And as you can see right here, that's part of his arms, and this is his back for his backpack right there. But yeah, you don't want to roll him on any abrasive surfaces, but a lot of time, if you're going to invest this sort of, or this amount of money on a figure, it's more going to be for display or as a collectible. So I don't see a lot of people spending the money on this figure to roll across any concrete. But it's very, very nice done figure. But just for fun, I want to go ahead and bring my Titans Returns version of Seaspray, because up until this point in time, this was my definitive Seaspray. The only thing is now, at this point in time, they pretty much remolded or brought out most of the mini-bots in the Generation 1 toy line. And the scale, like I said, they upped the scaling a little bit, because as you can see with the original mini-bots, they kind of had that Hot Wheels scaling here. And with the Generations toy line, they brought it up so it's more consistent with all the toy lines, where now you have a Seaspray that's almost as big as Ironhide as he appeared in the cartoon series. Well, this version of Seaspray, when I was having displayed with my newer, more modern mini-bots like, you know, Bumblebee and Cliffjumper and Warpath, he kind of scaled a little bit smaller, which is nice that they finally brought out a Seaspray that can be more consistent with that scaling. But I'm going to go and rotate this around so you see what all three look like. I mean, so you see a lot of the design elements did carry through, more so with the Generation 1 toy to the retro version. This version here was more modernized. It's still a nicely done hovercraft. Very, very nicely done. Now, I know they're building this figure as a boat, but he is a hovercraft because the original toy was being sold or marketed as a hovercraft. But like I said, I'm going to rotate around so you see all the differences and similarities on your own. Very, very nicely done figure. And as you can see in the back here, you do see Seaspray's head, but you know that's forgivable because it's turned around. In Generation 1 toy, his head's right there too. Here, more of the parts are disguised a little bit nicer. It's a very, very nicely done figure. I think all three generations of Seaspray were done really, really well. I just feel right now, this version of Seaspray is worth picking up. He was very hard to find at first, but I think right now it's all settled, where now you're seeing Seaspray on shelves. But I'm going to go ahead and take my other version of Seaspray, put him off to the side. I am so happy with this figure. Hasman Takara did a great job with this vehicle mode. Now there's Seaspray on my display table. I once again want to go over some of his plate features and accessories. First, I talk about his blaster. And according to the instructions, is going to arm Seaspray with this blaster while he's in his robot mode. You do that because the handle of the blaster here is actually a 5mm peg. Each one of his fists has a 5mm porthole. You want to take that blaster and plug it in either one of his fists, just like that, and now you have Seaspray armed with this blaster. But also, according to instructions, there's a second way of arming Seaspray. You can do that much like you did earlier on in his boat mode. Inside the blaster, you have a little porthole. Inside of Seaspray here, you have a little peg. You want to take that blaster, plug it right in that peg, just like that. And now you have Seaspray armed with his shoulder cannon. And as you know, according to the G1 lore, Seaspray did not have a shoulder cannon, which would have been a cool play feature if they did that with the original figure. But the original Generation 1 mini-bots did not include weaponry because the toy line that was based on did not have weapons, and they weren't armed robots. So when Hasbro marketed or licensed that toy line to the United States and rebranded them as Transformers, they did not have those weapons. So I want to take this blaster and put it back in his fist, because in the actual Generation 1 cartoon series, Seaspray did have a blaster that he used, and it looked much like that. So this concept, or this design for this toy, is actually based on the anime model from the Generation 1 cartoon series, which is different because this figure is part of the retro toy line that is a Walmart exclusive, and those are based on more of the Generation 1 toys. So the color scheme does match it, and some of the paint detail here is based on more of the sticker detail of the original figure right here, because the animated model for the Generation cartoon series did not have this right here. It was very basic and simplistic. So I do feel like this figure is going to be released in the main line and be more in correlation with the Generation 1 cartoon series, because that's what us Generation 1 fans clamor for, is more of a cartoon accurate figure, which is a dream for us. Because back in the day, you know, Takara, Hasbro, they did release the Transformers, and when the cartoon series came out, you know, the actual vehicle mode did look more like a toy. But when it came to the robot mode, it took a lot of imagination for us to think that these figures that we're playing with as toys were actually the same characters that were on the cartoon series, because, you know, let's face it, a lot of Generation 1 toys did have a lot of design flaws, and they were pretty much bricks. But Seaspray was a cool figure, and let me go ahead and bring my Generation 1 Seaspray to a side-by-side comparison. And like I mentioned earlier on, they did scale everything with the Generations toy line so they're more consistent with each other. I mean, with the original Generation 1 toy, you had a collection of a couple of different toy lines that were brought together to form Transformers, because Hasbro went over to Japan and found some toy lines that were really, really popular. They licensed them, brought them over to the United States, and rebranded them as Transformers. And this is part of a toy line called Micromen. And what that toy line is more based on was actual real-life toys that would transform into little robots that would like cause havoc or whatnot. But when they brought them over to the United States, it was pretty much an alien race that crash landed on Earth looking for energy, which is a really cool storyline, and that's why this toy line still remains relevant to this day, because the strong marketing that Hasbro had behind it. But thank God they did what they did. But Seaspray right here, you see a lot of the design elements that carry through to the retro version of Seaspray. I mean, the chest piece kind of is very consistent. You have the sticker detail right here, which they made it more of a paint detail over here. The color scheme more matches. The one thing I noted right here was I always thought the windshields were inside his feet right here, but they're always hollow here, which is disappointing. But I mean, my memory didn't serve me right. I love that they did the propellers that rotate here. And then the thing with Generation 1, there was not a lot of articulation. I mean, you got the arm articulation here. And I mean, you kind of say head, but no, that plays in the part of the transformation in the feet. And the funny thing is, off camera, in order for me to transform a Seaspray, because he was such an old toy, I actually had to undo the screws and pull the leg out because he was stuck. I mean, he'd been in my storage unit for almost 20-something years, so like he was stuck in his boat mode. And thank goodness I was able to get him in his robot mode for the purpose of this review, because I do love watching reviews that kind of do the whole comparison of the original to the newer versions. I just really got into that, and that's why I incorporate that into my reviews. But I'm going to go ahead and bring my Titans Returns version of Seaspray. And this Seaspray, up until the retro being released, was my definitive Seaspray. But the one thing I didn't mention this earlier on, is the scaling kind of was off with the more recent generations mini-bots like Cliffjumper and Brawn and Bumblebee. So I'm very happy that they went ahead and did Seaspray. I'm waiting on Powerglide. I know they're releasing Windcharger very soon, and they're redoing Cliffjumper. So I'm very happy that they're going to do the mini-bots. And also they're bringing out Wheelie, which is a very big surprise, because Wheelie was brought out with the Studio Series, where he was a core class figure, but I believe Hasbro and Takara have done away with the core class classification, so now I think we're gonna get maybe Deluxe maybe our smallest. But looking at all three figures are great. I do love the fact when Titans Return came out, they left a design element right here where this piece right here actually can snap off. And this piece was kept in because Seaspray in the Generation 1 cartoon series was more of a heavier set figure where he was kind of heavier on top, as you can see. And that's why they included this piece right here that could tab right into place. But if you prefer not doing that, you can take this piece off and arm it as a blaster. You get that little tab right there, and it tabs right into the top of the wrist. And you can also arm Seaspray, which is a pretty cool alternative to the actual bulky Seaspray that you would see in the Generation 1 cartoon series. But I do love Seaspray. Seaspray's a cool figure. I mean, with Titans Returns, it was a different toy line. I know they went ahead and they did a rebranding after the Combiner Wars series, which is what this was part of. It was part of that trilogy with Combiner Wars. I believe it was Titans Returns, and I can't remember what the other toy line was. Oh, Power of the Primes. So after that toy line ended, they went ahead and they started all over again, did the whole thing where they want to have everything, consistent with each other, with the weaponry, with the 5mm pegs, where all the weapons can be armed with every other figure. The scaling is more consistent. It was nice because now you have the mini bots are all the same size now. And that's where now, unfortunately, this figure is going to go back into storage, and this figure is going to take its place on my display shelf. But I'm going to go and take these two figures and put them off to the side. And I want to go talk about Seaspray. And the one thing that they did awesome with the new Generations toy line is, and they did that, it was probably post Beast Wars, is they added a lot of articulations. As you can see with Generation 1, the only point of articulation, like I mentioned, was the arms. Here you have wrist articulation, elbow articulation, you have bicep swivel right here, you have shoulder rotation, you go up and down, you have a ball socket joint for the head right here, we go up and down and all around, you have knee, you have hip, it's fantastic. You even have toe to an extent. But this figure has lots of points of articulation, so you can the poses or display can be very dynamic with whatever action poses you want to put Seaspray in your display. I prefer just to have him standing there with his other fellow Autobots, and I do group my my Transformers according to the season they came out in. And Seaspray was part of Series 2 when Transformers were released in 84, but this is the second year, so this one was released in 85. So I'll have him standing right next to Warpath and Cosmos and a lot of those Transformers that came out in that series. But Seaspray is fantastic. He was very hard to find at first. The only figure I could find in this wave was Brawn. But now, unfortunately, or very fortunately, Seaspray is appearing on toy shelves, so he's very easy to find. Hopefully, they won't overflood his figure on toy shelves. I know the holiday season is coming up, and he becomes a shelf warmer where they're gonna clearance him out and kind of leave less value on the retro toy line series. But this figure is fantastic, and I would advise picking him up, even though there is a high possibility they are going to re-release this figure and make him more look like what he looked like in the Generation 1 cartoon series. But if you guys found any of the information in this review valuable, please like and share this video. Also, if you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel, and while you're there, click the bell to be notified of any future videos. I want to thank you guys for watching Red Tails of Toy Collector Review. I'll check you guys out next time.